Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum, and today we are so excited to have special guest Anna Termine with us. Anna Termine has been in the publishing profession for over 30 years, so much experience in trade and academic publishing. Anna, your expertise are really in licensing and contract negotiations for traditional and non-traditional sales of books. So I'm so excited about this, especially because you focus on subsidiary rights, which is not something we hear about all the time. So before we get too deep into it, can you just tell us what subsidiary rights are?
Sure. And thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here. Yes, so subsidiary rights are a key part of publishing. The revenue from subsidiary rights sales goes right to the bottom line, which is very nice. It allows exposure and publicity for a book. And basically, it's just the right to produce and publish something from a product from an original material. So when people talk about rights or sub rights, it's audio rights. Used to be books on tape, now it's books on digital. Foreign translations, when a book is translated into another country's language. And also, of course, film and TV. So when a book is adapted for a series or a movie, those are dramatic rights. And so those are really the three major types of subsidiary rights.
Fantastic. And do you specialize in all of those or do you specialize in one over the other?
Nope. So I've been doing sub rights for a long time, as you said. Makes me sound old. And yeah, so I do all sub rights. I'm the sub rights agent. I worked for traditional publishers, and my roles, one was an academic publisher and one was a trade publisher. And in both of those jobs, I was their subsidiary rights and licensing director. I actually still do film rights. I act as a film rights agent for a publisher. But I just love rights. I love it. I think it's fun. Things have changed a little bit, in the rights world. I will say in publishing, COVID, like everything, has, caused some issues. But I have to say, it's a lot of fun. Audio in particular has just gone crazy. There was a really neat report that came out from the Audio Publishers Association. And this is the 11th year in a row that audio has grown in double digits. 10 in the American market, 10 to 11%. It's a $2 billion business. And so, the same isn't so necessarily true with translation rights, because with translation rights, you're working with publishers in other countries or agents. And much like what's happening in publishing in the US, COVID caused a lot of layoffs and not as much staff. So it's a little bit more difficult to get a translation right. Not that it's different, it's just there's not enough people to sort of work with that anymore like there was. So you just have to be really careful in your targeting. And of course, with film rights, we have a writer's strike going on and there's an actor strike going on. So it doesn't mean there can't be conversations and emails, but there's not a lot going on with that right now because of that. But as I said, the good thing about rights is that you're selling the right to someone else to do something with the book. So you don't have to do it. You get the money that comes in. So that's the beauty of sub-right sale.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. A question about audio rights, because just going back to that, we know that it's a growing industry and it's really expected to continue that kind of growth until about 2027. So there's still quite a few years there. Are you seeing sales happen, or is it easier to move any specific genre for audiobooks?
Yes, so there are definitely. What's interesting is books for children are growing. And I actually pulled some stats just in case we got, and I love that. So that is growing. It's still a very small percentage of the books, like 2%, but it's grown by like 6% over what it has been. The top fiction, sci-fi, and fantasy are the top, but the fastest growing genres is humor, nonfiction, and romance. And so that's really terrific because before it really was just listening, it's a novel, it's that kind of stuff. But now people are taking much more self-help and nonfiction and business books are also starting to grow. So it's really, the market is expanding for everyone. It really is fantastic how it's grown. And like you said, they are expecting this meaning the audio industry and the publishing industry are expecting this to continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about children's books, because children's books, I do think that we're seeing currently in the market, we are seeing children's books actually on a downside for print sales. So I think it's so interesting. And I've noted this several times that we'll see industry trends down in print sometimes, and then we'll see growth in audio. So I don't think that it's children are, well, they may be reading less over time because of devices and things, but I think it's interesting to see that print sales are going down, but audio and even ebook sales are going up.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with also the busyness of families. And, you can, if you're in the car, you can throw a book on tape on for kids and, I mean, book on tape. You know what I mean? They're not on tape anymore. These aren't CDs. Yeah, so I absolutely agree with you. I think that trend is going to continue. And I think it's good because kids can still learn. I mean, I'm a book person, so I want everybody to have a book in their hand, but I get it, and it's important. And just FYI, the average number of audiobooks that the average person reads in a year is almost 7, which is a lot when you think about it. And there was a big survey that went out, and most people stick to their genre, like, oh, I love romance or fiction, whatever it is, but they will listen to another type of book as an audio rather than changing what they like to read and do it in print.
Isn't that interesting? And I find that true for myself. So, for example, I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I listen to mostly nonfiction. But if I'm reading, I usually read fiction. So I think that's such an interesting trend that sometimes we need the delivery system to be slightly different for different needs.
Yep, I think so. So it's an exciting world. And there are a lot of there are 6 or 7 big audio publishers. And there are a couple of them that will definitely work with self-published folks. They like to champion, the self-published book. And it works just like, when you're getting a publisher, if they decide they want to do your audio version, they would do it. People want to listen to professionals or well-known people. We all think that we could do our own audiobook and it would be terrific. And that does happen sometimes, but most people, when they're listening, want to have someone that's a professional or famous. And, there's an advance and there's a royalties in the end and that kind of a thing. And so while I don't want to discourage anyone from not doing their own version, it will be a better seller and easier to get out there if you work with a publisher that specializes in that.
Sure. And I mean, the process is, I've worked on both working with production studios, and I've also worked with authors doing it on their own. And I will say there have been a lot less tears involved when you license your rights out. And I want to talk to you about that licensing bit. And you talked about advance and royalties. Mm-hmm. So we all get like $1 million for our advance, right? Yes.
No. So back, if your last name, if you're Stephen King, then you will get $1 million. But for normal folks, no. And of course, especially since COVID, things have changed a lot. But it would be and advances are based on whether it's a foreign rights deal or a audio. It's based on the number that they think, the print run, if you will, how many they think they're going to sell, the price that will be priced at, and then a royalty percentage that's sort of negotiated. So it really does depend on the book itself and what they will want to offer. There'll always be an offer from an audio publisher. And then, of course, there's conversation, and that can be, that. Usually it's a 10% royalty, but it can be anywhere from 8 to 12. So it all varies. It could be $500, it could be $10,000. It all depends on the publisher, the audio publisher that's doing it. If you are already published with a publishing company, they many times will license the rights for you if they have that, because a lot of the publishers have deals with audio publishers. Or if you're an author that is with a publisher and you've retained those rights, then you certainly can go to an audio publisher and see if they'll want to do it. Same thing if you're a self-published author. Sales do matter though. So if you have a book that has sales that you can show them, that is very helpful because they will ask that. Obviously, if it's a new book, that's different. but they want to make sure that if it sold well there, it's going to probably sell well as an audio.
Sure. And what kind of, when you say it sells well, I think that can be open-ended. So if you are taking on a client or you're going to pitch a book, what kind of sales or what kind of platform do you like them to have before pitching?
Well, and it depends on what kind of book it is, what genre it is, what the audience is, to be honest with you. And so all of that plays into it. How long has the book been out? Is it 1,000 copies sold in 10 years? That's going to be a problem. Is it 10,000 sold in 6 months? That's a good thing. But I'm just saying, it all depends on each scenario. I will say that it's very important for authors, whether you're with a publishing company or not, to have a platform. And by that, I mean Facebook, website, you're on Twitter, you're on, all that stuff. It's become very, very important, particularly since COVID. Publishers and other, media, they don't have the time or energy to do that for authors anymore. Authors are really asked to do a lot on their own now. And so the bigger platform you have, the more followers you have, the more blogs you're doing, all of that stuff will definitely be helpful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a question from Anna asking if the platform needs to have the name of the author or of the book. And I'll actually jump in on that, Anna, and say typically we want the name of the author. The book sometimes, but if you're an author, the idea is we want to form relationships in this industry that can continue. So we don't want, I hate to say, but a one-hit wonder. We want someone who's got a great book who has potential for more great books. And so that typically would go under your name. But would you agree, Anna?
Absolutely. It's exactly what I was going to say. Yes, absolutely. And especially if you have more than one book or more than one product or more than one, then it become a brand. So now we've got your book and your blog and we've got this and we've got, all these things, but it's your name. And that way that's what becomes familiar. And then they'll search that and find everything that's you.
Exactly. And for audiobooks, if it is licensed, how long typically does it take from the licensing paperwork to the actual audiobook to come out?
So again, that in 9 times out of 10, what happens is if it's a new book that's going to be published, the audio will come out at the same time as the print book. That's the ideal way to go. Obviously, if you're self-published or you're that kind of a thing, and the book is already out, then that will be a little bit different. And it all depends on the production schedule of the audio publisher, and where they can fit it into their catalog and their season and that kind of a thing. It doesn't take that long. I mean, once the deal is done and the paperwork is done, they'll start that process. But I would say 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's about right too. I want to move on a little bit now. Now we've covered audio and we'll still take questions, but I want to talk about film because you did talk about the writer's strike and the actor's strike. And this is something that's been in the news a lot. And we've talked about how this has affected the publishing industry in the sense that when we talk about writer's strike, it's not all writers. It's writers for film. It's for that industry. So can you tell us a little bit about what kind of effect you've seen that personally take on the publishing industry?
Sure. So it's actually the Writers Guild of America and those members that are striking. And they're striking for many reasons, but there are 2 big reasons. One is AI, this whole thing of how to handle AI with regard to, and that's coming up in so many things. Now you can do AI text and you can do, all that stuff. So how do they handle AI? But the most important thing, it's the streamers, right? So now all of a sudden, and if you'll remember, this happened with music many years ago, when Spotify and all these guys came up, the artists and the writers weren't getting paid for their songs. And so that's what the big deal is of this strike. These writers, and some of them are famous and have done huge shows, and they get royalty checks for 2 cents because of the deals that they were made with the streamers. So that's what the big deal is. This will probably go on until October or November. I think they've come to an agreement about AI, sort of, but it's the streaming thing. How are they going to get paid? And that's very important, obviously. What it has done for the entertainment business is no one that is a WGA writer can work right now. So that means daily shows that have scripts every day, or shows that they're filming now and need script changes. All of that had to come to a complete stop. Reality shows, as long as they're not scripted, can go on, but anything that has to do with writers from the WGA had to stop. And no one wants to, of course, break that picket line. Now, is there work going on behind the scenes? Of course there are, but no one is wanting to do a deal right now. What also happened was I have a lot of deals that I have done, and option deals, which is sort of what it is when you have when someone wants to do something with your book, they're going to ask for an option. And normally it's a rental, really. They're going to get the exclusive right for whatever is determined, 12, 18 months, whatever is you negotiate, to do something with that book, whether it's to find financing or sell it to a studio or whatever they're going to do. And there were some renewals that were up, and even some options that I did that weren't even up for renewal. But boy, did I get emails saying, oh, we're going to invoke force majeure because of the strike. It's kind of an act of God. And so nobody has to pay for any renewals with their options. Nobody wants to pay if they want to do a new deal. And at the end of the strike, those months will be tacked on. So that is difficult because it holds up books. Let's say someone has an option for a book, and they're not going to do anything with it. It's not going to be a movie, whatever. That option now, instead of ending and then you able to sell it to someone else, it's going to continue for as many months. So that's kind of what's happening there too. And then as I said, with film rights, people are talking, having conversations, but no one wants to do any deals right now. And I think that realistically, it's going to be December or January before we see, it'll be after the holidays. People are catching up, after the strike ends, there's going to be catch up on productions and things like that. So I think it's going to be a few months before we get back to people wanting to actually, do paid options again.
Right. And I agree. I actually have a couple clients who've been affected by the strikes, both as writers and as actors. And so
actors on strike too. Absolutely.
Yeah, so actors in solidarity have gone on strike as well. And so we're seeing a lot of that. So I think that is one of those things where it's like, now is not the time to be pitching or looking for an agent for film. Like that, I'm not saying you should not do it. I think you should always prep and be ready. But now is not the time to go out and say, hey, I've got a great idea. Now's not that time. But speaking of pitching, if someone comes to you and says, I want my book to be optioned for film, what should they know? What marketing materials should they have? What do you need to get started?
Well, first you need to do research. Well, I would say two things. If you want to find a film agent, and if you don't want to find a film agent, to do it yourself, and that's fine. Research. Figure out, what is my genre? What's my book? What do I see? Is this a series? Is it a film? And then find something that's been done that's similar, that was successful. And so, because you want to approach production companies or studios or networks or directors or producers or whoever, but you want it to be something that they're good at, they've done before, and that would be of interest to them. Now, that's not to say, there's always these trends that happen, like when Harry Potter came out, then there was everybody wanted to do that kind of, and then when Twilight came out, and everybody wanted to be that. So it can be overloaded after a while. So you want to be different and unique, but you also want to, pitch to people that are going to appreciate what you're doing because they have that experience, and that's always helpful. Research, like I said, research. The pitch to a producer, nowadays people want decks, they want slides, they want ideas. Nobody has the time or energy to put together stuff anymore. They don't want to think about it. They want to see it. Some producers don't want a book. They want a treatment or a screenplay. They don't want to have to adapt it themselves. Some producers want the book. They don't want you to send them a script or a treatment. They want to do that themselves. So it is about research. Having a good log line, a tagline, so that in one easy sentence, you can tell them what the book's about. You want to develop the characters. It has to be a good synopsis, beginning, middle, end. flush out the characters, 2 or 3 sentences about each one. So there is a little bit of a different pitch with film when it comes versus like a publisher, when you're sending it to a publisher or an agent.
Yeah, it is different because it's a different format. And I think what you said about that research is really important because you also need to know where, if your book is made into a series or a film, what platform does it belong on?
Yeah.
If you know, hey, this is pitch perfect for Hallmark, or I know that Hulu, so I have film agents who will email me occasionally and say, hey, we're looking for a thriller that's got a private eye for Hulu or different things like that, because that's where you'll see that kind of thing happening. So I think it's also important to know kind of what channel or what vibe your book gives off.
Yep. And I have, there are ways to find out, what a studio is looking for. So you can do research, and Hulu will say, no romance, we only want this, this, and this. And you're absolutely right. You need to research the places that you want to go to as well. Some networks, you have to be really careful. They don't want anything with language. They don't want anything with, that kind of stuff. So you really have to be careful with that. If you're going to send a treatment, there are rules about that. You don't want it to be more than 12 pages. I mean, so you just have to do a lot of research on who you're going to pitch to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we can come back to that in a few months when things settle down.
Yes.
Do another one.
And I love that. And that's exactly the idea. But now, you've got a couple months, you guys, to work on your pitch decks, your log lines, and it should be, I love when I ask an author to tell me about their book and 5 minutes later, they're still telling me about their book.
The rule is 3 minutes. My rule is 3 minutes. If you had 3 minutes to tell somebody about your book, that should do it. And
I should be interested in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And so practicing is really important. Practicing is important. Not only speaking it, but also when you're writing it, write it all out, but then speak it and see how does it flow? How does that explanation go? Yeah.
And you should know your log line at all times. You never know who you're going to run into, when you're going to run into, and you're chatting. I mean, I've had instances where I've been sitting on an airplane chatting with someone and they ask me a question. You've got seconds to tell them. You should know. So, and practice on other people, practice out loud. Don't just have it written, because you're not going to have it in front of you to read.
Yep.
And I'm not saying every time you meet an agent or a publisher, you should be spewing your pitch out. But if it comes up, you should know exactly how to pitch your book.
And on that, and it's really fun. You can Google famous log lines, and you can see, even the ones for there's some fun ones. And when you see the log line and then you realize what movie it was, oh, that does make sense. And also, I think the most important thing is, if you do run into someone that's an agent or a publisher or a producer or something, the first things out of your mouth should not be, oh, I have an idea for a book. I have an idea for a movie. It should be, oh, you're a producer. What types of things do you do? What are you looking for? Because if they're doing horror and you're a romance person, you're going to waste each other's time. So just be mindful. And that's the first thing I always do is, what are you looking? Is there anything in particular you're looking for? Maybe I have that. And so that's always a sort of a nice way to start a conversation.
Right. And also, I always say it's a bit like a cocktail party. You don't go up to someone and start just yappering about who you are and what you do. You generally say, oh, hi, my name's Keri. What do you do? And that kind of thing. It should be a conversation. These are people, and manners still matter.
Yes.
Like, I sound like I'm going back 50 years, but manners matter.
Manners matter. Old school is good.
Oh my goodness. I think that's so funny. So segueing a little bit, of course, film is like the big exciting thing. But film is kind of on pause, as we know. Let's talk about translation rights. Is it hard to sell translation rights? Is it harder than, let's say, audio?
Yes. And on film, I just also want to say, film rights are great. Options are great. It's an advance. There's royalties, etc. It can be income that flows in for a couple of years, but not every option is going to be made into a movie or a series. I have done thousands of options, and there are very few that. So just, expectations are always good to have. So even though we all think we've got the best book that's going to be the best movie, it's difficult. And yes, translations are much harder than audio, and especially now. And again, you certainly can do them yourselves. When you're pitching translations, you are pitching to publishers in another country or agencies that represent publishers in that country. Not every book is going to be appropriate for every language in every country. So you have to be mindful of that. There are cultural things that have to be really careful. And you have to be really careful with that. And again, they also like to see sales. You know, a foreign publisher, if it did well here, it's going to do well there. Fiction is harder because unless it's somebody really well known, right? And biographies and things like that. Nonfiction does very, very well. Kid stuff does very, very well. And business can. And business, education, higher learning, professional books do well as well. Not to say that fiction doesn't, fiction does well, but you know, it depends on the genre, the story, but memoirs are very, very difficult. And even though we think it's a great story, because they don't know you. If there's good sales, however, and good reviews, then that will happen. Translations take a long time too. So let's say you find a publisher, and you can find, you know, there's various book fairs that happen. There's the Frankfurt Book Fair, London Book Fair, Beijing Book Fair. While we all can't go to those, you can go on their websites, and they do list all the exhibitors and the publishers. You can also just research and Google publishers in China that publish, you know, romance, whatever. But let's say you have interest in your book. They're going to want to see that book. Never send PDFs or attachments. They don't always go through. They don't like that. In your email and your pitch is when you want to give the details. They'll come back and ask you for the manuscript. Once they get the manuscript, a publisher will take generally 3 to 4 months to review it, read it, talk to their salespeople, make sure it's appropriate, if that kind of a thing. Then they'll come back with an offer, conversation happens, a deal is done. They generally have 18 to 24 months to translate, publish, print, and sell their version of the book. So it is a longer process, but royalties will come in, you know, after the book sells and the advance earns out. Rule number 1, you can never license the same book to the same language. So if you do a French translation, you cannot sell that again for the same book.
Sure. Okay. And are you seeing any languages predominantly translating from English? Do you see like trends? I know you said business and nonfiction, and if I'm not mistaken, those do very well in like India. So are you seeing certain languages transfer over?
Japan is always very good for a lot of things, and in business and nonfiction in particular. China likes, professional, educational, but they'll also, and kids books. But to be honest with you, it all just varies on who you're sending it to, because there are publishers in every country that just do psychology books or science books. So, and there are general trade publishers, so they would look at everything. And so again, it's just about research. And the reason I say that translations are tougher now, as I alluded to earlier, it's just because it's difficult. There's no staff. So I've been working with a couple of agents for 30 years, where, you know, they'll look at they'll take anything I say. Or you have a new client, great. And literally, and this was someone in Japan who called me and said, "I'm so sorry. There's only 2 of us now. There used to be 20 in the office. We can't take anybody new, even if it's you." And I was like, wow. So that's what's happened with translation. It's bandwidth. They just don't have the bandwidth. Unless it's something really spectacular, it's going to be a longer wait time until they sort of get done with what they're doing. Working with an agency is nice though, because they represent many publishers. So you don't have to send out 40 pitches to 40 publishers in France. You work with a French agency or an agency here in the US that works with them, and they'll get it out on your behalf. So
yeah. And are translations rights something that an author can pitch themselves? Should they go through an agent? And what are the pros and cons there?
the pros of going with an agent is they know the people. They have a track history. They have they work with these people before, they know them. So if you have an agent do it, and they'll also do all the negotiating, do the paperwork and all that stuff for you. There's contracts, there's all sorts of things. Obviously, yes, you can do it yourself. And again, that's with research, finding the right publisher, make sure they publish the same kind of book that you do. Find the right contact number. If they're all available on these websites, even if you searched, the publishers in France that publish, kids books, they'll all come up. You go to their website, there'll be information on where to send it to. And you want to send it to, usually they'll say for sub-rights inquiries and things like that. Make sure you send it to the right person. It's all about research, because it'll either won't get to the right person and it'll never go anywhere, or they'll just be like, oh, irritated because you didn't do the right research. So, obviously give it a whirl, but I think an agent is always better just because they've already got relationships, and they're the ones that are going to the book fairs. They're the ones meeting with these people. They will represent a person's books at these fairs. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but agents also know kind of what standard payments are and things, and they can negotiate better deals for you as well. That's why people always say, well, why would I give part of the cut to an agent? And my response is always, that agent will probably get you more even after they get paid than you would get on your own.
Well, and an agent gets you the deal. They also will follow up to make sure payments are, they'll also, they're sort of there to guide you through the entire process. There's, because when you do a translation deal, there's covers, and you want to make sure that you get sort of approval on the cover, and that has to be in the agreement. And so you want to make sure that if you're doing it on your own, that you understand how the deals work, so that you're not setting yourself up to not get everything that you should.
Exactly. And those are the little details you don't think about. Like, your cover typically is not going to be used in other markets. It will be completely different designs, because what sells here in the US doesn't necessarily sell there. And also they want them to look a little bit different, sometimes completely different.
Yeah. And you have to be careful too, if you're doing something that is medical, if it has medical information, or it has, health and fitness, sometimes you have to be careful, because you want to put a disclaimer saying that you are assuming that the translation is good and faithful to the original. But if they put something wrong in and something happens, you don't want to be liable for any of that stuff. So there are certain things that you have to be careful, depending on what kind of book you're publishing. You've published.
Sure. And we have a question on children's books. If you are trying to pitch a children's book, here it's become very popular in the US to have books that are kind of they've got two languages in them. So it'll be English, but then it'll work in some Spanish. Is that popular in translations, or do translations typically that you've seen prefer just English straight to the other language?
No, it'd be English straight to the other language. Yeah. So they're taking the English version and they're going to put it into their language. So they don't want it to be, So just English. Yeah. Yep.
Just straight English.
Just straight English. Yep.
Perfect. Another question is, given how long the process is and how few books make it big, how do rights agents make a living? If it's a slow process, how do you make a living? Now I'm going to guess that part of this is, as you mentioned, options and things, because you're selling options and you're selling rights, but that doesn't mean that it ends up as a final product, but you still get an initial payment, correct?
Right. So agents work on commission. So whatever deal an agent gets for their author or writer, they get 15 or 20%, depending on what it is they're doing. And that is for any money coming in the future. So that means that if you do an option deal, they get money on that. If there's any royalties that come in, they get money on that. So that's how an agent makes money. It's usually always on commission. And always, always, always be careful. When you're querying an agent, they should never ask for you to pay them to read your stuff. Mm-hmm. Or an agent does not need to pay you. An agent should read if they're interested, they'll read it and they'll get back to you, yes or no, but never pay anyone to read your material.
Right, not for that. Now, if this is
obviously, if you're having, obviously there are times when you definitely will pay. But I'm saying if you're looking for an agent that's going to sell rights for you, they should not be asking you for money.
Correct. Yeah. And a question going back to film is you had talked about how some producers like to have a screenplay ready to go. Should authors be considering writing their own screenplay, or is that something that's usually done by someone else?
Well, both. So absolutely. If you're going to write a screenplay, research. There are software programs that it would have to be in. If it's not in the right format, no one's going to look at it. Usually, writing a screenplay is much different than writing a book. So unless you have experience with that and you really feel strongly about it, I would recommend you're not doing that, only because there's a lot of steps. If it's going to be a series and they need a series Bible, they need a pilot, there's a lot of things. I think a proper treatment is better. And that is basically a synopsis, but it's a little bit more involved. And again, there are ways to do a treatment. Also, production companies and studios have writers on staff, and that they will sometimes have to use them. Or if there is a studio and they're working with a particular production company and they have to, so there's usually someone that's going to be doing that. The most important thing to find out is whether or not they do want the book or a screenplay. And if they want a screenplay, then move on to somebody else until you're ready. Screenplays are hard to do if you're not used to doing them, and it's a lot of time.
Yeah. And do you have, if someone is like, okay, I don't know how to write a screenplay, but I'm interested in learning about that process, do you have any resources you would recommend?
Final Draft is the name of the software program. You can also find scripts. If you Google, it's kind of fun. There are places where movies that you know and love, the scripts are on there, but there are definitely some. And Keri, I can send you some links,
Love it.
and then you can forward it on to everybody. But yeah.
Yeah. So if you would send me those links, and I'll also
sure.
put it on the YouTube replay, so that would be great.
Great.
And I also think it's important to realize that, like, typically authors aren't expected to write the screenplay. I think it's fun. I think you can learn it, but it is very different. And just as I've had screenplay writers try to write a book, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yes, it is, because they are expecting the action to carry people's voices and actions and things like that. And that's just completely different. So sometimes there are people who can cross over, who can learn. And then there is also value in learning. That's not my style, and I'm going to leave it to the people who it's their style.
Absolutely. And if let's say it does get to the point where your book is optioned and it gets moved along into the process, there's a development part where they'll say, okay, well, we need to have a script. And you would certainly be involved as a consultant. I mean, no one knows the IP better than the person that wrote it. So you'll be involved in the process and can get input into the process, even though you're not necessarily writing the screenplay.
Yeah. And do you ever see nonfiction or even business books get optioned for film in any way?
Yes. A lot of times for documentaries. But every now and again, that wouldn't be the top thing. Again, there's trends in that as well, as in film. But if it's a solid book that for documentary type usually, or documentary, but like the learning channel, things where it's educational. It's not going to be necessarily like a movie. It might be more
Right.
done in a different as a reality, live, that kind of a thing, versus a scripted movie or series. I mean, there'll still be a script, but it will be a different format. It's not going to be like a romance movie. It's going to be on the Learning Channel, and it might be an hour, show about this particular topic.
Sure. And another question we had, kind of veering from that back to translations. Look, we're in the Q&A part where we just hop all over.
That's fine. It's fun.
A question is if a book is translated, where does it sell? Like, does it sell in bookstores? Does it go to Amazon? Where do these translations go?
Yeah. So when you sell a translation for a language, let's say it's a French publisher. So that version, they will have global rights to that book to sell that version. So yes, it will go obviously into their bookstores, but it would be available on Amazon, the French Amazon. They're going to sell it in their country, but also they will definitely try and distribute. So whatever distribution they have, if they're selling books in Britain, they'll go there as well. So all the normal channels that a publisher sells to, it'll just be their version of that in that language. Will you see a lot of them here in the US? Maybe not, probably not, but in Europe you will.
You're right, exactly. And I think that's really important to realize is that a lot of times we will see a book on Amazon. For example, I can look up the English version of a popular book on Amazon UK or Amazon France, but it's also important to realize that it would be listed on the same platforms. You probably could find it on Amazon France, but it would have a different ISBN for that translation.
Yes, the different copyright, different ISBN, everything. It's a brand new book. And yes, everything would be different.
Yes. And when looking at that, I do think it's important to kind of understand the market. So US, we have so many books that are bought directly on Amazon, and UK actually almost matches us for Amazon sales. However, other parts of the country, not as much. They still use Amazon, but they are much less dependent on online sales, and you tend to see them more in store, smaller, even like we would call them like mom and pop stores or that kind of thing. You see support of those so much more in other countries than you do in the US.
Yep, and I'm Swedish. I have a Swedish passport. I was born in Sweden, and I spend a lot of time in Sweden. And it's just been in the last year that my family and friends in Sweden have started utilizing Amazon and they're not buying books. They're buying other things. They're still going to the bookstores and all of that. You're absolutely right on that, Keri. Scandinavia and Western Europe definitely embraces a bookstore more than we do.
Yeah, well, and stores in general. I mean, I think it's so interesting. My sister-in-law currently lives in Poland, and
Oh,
and she's like, yeah, we go shopping every couple of days and get what we
yep.
need. This in America, we have the sense of buying online, buying in bulk. I don't want to go often. I'm going to pick it up or have it delivered. Where there, it is a big sense of community of course, you're going to go to your butcher and get
Yeah.
your meat. You're going to go to your grocer and get
So
different
true.
things. And that is not only for the food culture, but that is also true for bookstores and things. That it's still very much culturally a joy to go browse a bookstore, to pick up and hold and feel and read. And that's something we still have in America, just a lot less.
Yeah.
But in other countries, they still buy on Amazon, just not as much. So the Amazon marketplace doesn't matter quite as much as other options,
Right.
in my opinion, for certain translated rights.
Yep. And these just like our publishing companies have here, there's a sales force or they use a distributor. They're out there selling to all the stores and to all their customers and that kind of a thing. So that's how they get the books. But you're absolutely right on that. It's a good point. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen for film, have you ever seen options? We talked about how you can get a book optioned, which just means they have the rights to do something with it. Um, how often do you see where someone gets an option and they never do anything with it? Like generally speaking.
There in the past in particular, there was a large percentage of people. They just like to gather stuff and keep it, and then they won't do anything. That looks like a good idea. We'll just grab that. And when I'm doing an option deal, I'm always mindful of that. I always like to talk to the people if they're passionate about something. You could have 5 people interested in an option for a book, and one might have a lot of money, but they don't care. And it's going to sit there and they're going to keep renewing it and renewing nothing, and that's going to happen. And the one that has a little bit less money, but really cares about it will actually do something and work towards having that. So I think it's all in the negotiation of who you're talking to. You never want to give someone a 2-year option to start. Ideally it's 12 months, maybe 18, depending on who they are. If they do want to renew, it should be a lesser time frame, but they're going to pay again. I mean, there's ways to sort of control that so that they don't have it for 5-6 years and nothing happens. You don't want that to happen. If they don't have something figured out by 2 years or 18, it's not going to happen.
Enough already.
Yeah.
And when something does get optioned, let's say I'm an author, I have a book, it's been optioned. Um, how soon, if it was going to be made into a movie or a series, how soon could that happen, or how long could it take to make that happen?
Well, I mean, it could be years again. And it depends on who you're optioning it to. So a lot of times you're optioning, it could be a writer. I have an option with a writer at Brad Pitt's company, Plan B. She's a writer, she worked and also producer, but she wants to write the screenplay. And so she optioned it via, um, uh, it all depends on if it's a producer, let's say it's an independent producer. They need to find money. They need to find, pitch it to a studio. Pitching, when they're pitching it, if it's a producer or it's a longer process because they really need to have it developed. Can they attach an actor? If they can get an actor attached, they can go in and say, oh, well, Meryl Streep's interested in this. Oh, well, that's better than if there's nobody attached. So there's a longer process. No movie's ever going to be, trust me when I tell you, when it goes, and here's the other thing, when you're optioning it, that's not the final deal. So you're doing an option with a producer, right? But then they sell it to Netflix. Now there's a new contract, and that's between Netflix. The reason you do the option is it gives them the right, they're involved, but there's also money listed. There's going to be a floor and a ceiling. How much is it going to cost? So that when they sell it to Netflix, Netflix knows, okay, for the property, it's going to cost this much. They don't want surprises. But then there's going to be a whole new net. So it's a much longer process. The good news is any of these deals, even if it's an option that may never be a movie, publicize it. It should be in the cat. This movie has been, this book has been optioned by, so-and-so. And this book has been translated by whatever it is. It's all publicity. It's all stuff that will garner interest for your book. But I have, like I said, rights are great, but it's a long process.
Yes, it's a long process. And I love the publicity piece. I think it's so funny. I have a client who their book was recently made into a film for Hallmark.
Awesome.
And it goes live on Hallmark next month.
Oh,
And she asked me to start an ad, and I said, where's the Hallmark sticker? Like that is one of those things. I was like, we want a Hallmark sticker on
the
this
Hallmark
book
sticker.
now, because
Yep.
that is going to help you. And so the way that you use it, even if it is turned into a movie, because I've seen instances where a film or a book was optioned, it was turned into a film, and that film sold, the book didn't sell as a response. So I think, and that's part of that, okay, it's a book to film, but you have to really market your film or your book to match that film and let people know it's connected.
And
And
that's
your
a
real
whole
shot at sales is prior to the launch of that movie or film or whatever
absolutely.
it is.
Absolutely. And that's a whole another round of sales you can get, because, oh my gosh, now this is whoever's selling your book for you, they should be made aware immediately. There should be a sticker. There should be some promotion. It should be on everyone's website, all of that. You're absolutely right. You absolutely can and should capitalize on that.
Yep. Yeah. And like I said, I do think that it's very much, of course, some people will watch the movie and then go get the book. But more often than not, what you see is is being made into a movie. There's a rush of sales where people will go get the book, read the book, and then watch the movie. Book clubs, interviews. It's very actor focused and movie focused after the film comes out. But
Absolutely.
the lead up, that 6 to 12 months lead up, is that sweet spot where an author can really capitalize on interviews, on sales and things like that. And if you do it well, you'll ride out as the film is released
For
or
sure.
the series, whatever it is.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, we love it. Anna, any other things that we should know about the industry, anything happening that we should be aware of just with subsidiary rights and what's happening now?
I think just, again, research, make sure that your proposals or pitches are really good. There are examples online that you can find, learn about, and that, here's the thing, when I send out translations, I'm sending it to 300 people. But you might hear back from a quarter of those. You want to make sure that you have a nice long list of people, but research. Don't send anything to anybody that it's not appropriate. For any of these things is going to be really important. Again, go to the audio publishers and see what types of books do they have your genre. It always lists, all their books are on their website. If you're a kids author and they don't have any kids books, don't send them anything. It's a waste of time. Research is the most important thing. That 3-minute, conversation and a good pitch. I mean, those are the things that really matter.
Yeah. And as far as platform, because we kind of let in with platform, are there standards for a platform that you would recommend that an author has? Are there goals of like followers or what kind of website they should have?
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, basically you want it to be consistent across all the platforms, but you really should be active if you can be on all the platforms, at Twitter and Facebook and, all that stuff. And your own website. Your own website is important. And if you have your own book, obviously you want to be able to sell it on your own website, right? You should be connected to that and also list all the places your books are sold, things like that. But you want it to be consistent. So and then you want to link everything together so that, you got to do a lot of tweets and you got to do a lot of this. It's sort of a little bit of everything, but consistency with your brand is important. So,
Yes.
Whatever you're calling yourself across, you want it to be your name, as Keri said, and just have everything be consistent so that they know it's you all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think active is the key
Yeah,
word. It doesn't matter if it's beautifully set up. If
Yeah.
you're not active, they're going to notice that. So, there are people I know who are like, well, I have 100,000 followers because they paid for them, but they don't interact. That still doesn't look good. You've got to be active.
Very true, very true. And participate, active, have blogs, do a video blog. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff, and on your website. And like Keri said, you have to be active because they'll check.
Oh, absolutely. They will check.
Yep.
Yes, yes, yes. And because they're looking for a partner, as much as they're looking for great IP, they're looking for great content, they also want a partner. They
Yes.
want to make sure that what you're doing is going to help them sell something also. So it goes both ways. You want a partner to help you, get your book into audio or translations or different things. And they want a partner that's going to help them sell whatever that product is. And you may not have the same platform that they do, but you better be an active partner in it. No one wants to be the person who's always lifting someone else up. They really want someone who's going to reciprocate in that marketing effort.
Yep. Very true.
Oh, fantastic. Anna, you have been amazing. We have lots of questions of like, where can we find Anna? How can we get in touch? So, how can people get in touch with you if they'd like?
You can email me at actermine@gmail.com. Also, I should mention I'm actually a publisher now. I am a partner in a publishing company. We just launched our first book this week, but it's called Sibylline Press, but you can reach me at AC Termine. We are a general trade publisher, but our authors are all women over 50. So just FYI, if any ladies out there that have a, a manuscript or an idea, feel free to contact me because we're open to submissions.
Okay, fantastic. And do you work in any specific genres or,
No.
are you looking for anything specific for either translations, audio, or for Sibylline Press?
No, I think for Sibylline Press, we're general trade. We've got two mystery series, we've got memoirs, we've got historical fiction, that kind of thing. I think most of what I am interested in now is fiction. Not so much kids, children's. I did that for a time, but it's a whole other world, and I'm just concentrating on fiction most for myself. And I also do work with a film producer. And so, he's always looking for stuff there too. So, but really a good story, well-written, good story. It's about that. It doesn't really, if it's a good story and the characters are good and, that's not to say a good business book might be fine. I don't want to discount anyone. I'm happy to listen to and take a look at anything. And if it's not something that I'm interested in or feel I can do a good job with, I would recommend it to somebody else.
Yeah, fantastic. And for everyone who's on the call today, I did put Anna's email and the Sibylline Press website in the chat, and I'll also put that on the replay so people can look that up. I think it's just fantastic. Everything you're doing, you're such a pro. And
Well,
so thank you for taking your time and expertise and sharing it with us. We just really appreciate you.
well, I really appreciate it. It was really super fun. And thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone else who joined us. And we will see you next week, same time, same place, 10 a.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.
Have a good weekend.